Hello again, and welcome to new ones in the room. Welcome to the Terminology Leading Practices stream of the SNOMED CT Expo 2023. My name is Anna Randolph-Høyen, and I'm an implementation support specialist with SNOMED International, and I will be moderating this session. All questions will be answered at the conclusion of the presentation. And for online attendees, please use the Q&A button to type your questions to the presenter, and we will read them out. And for on-site attendees, please use the microphone in the middle of, in the center of the room. But I'm now pleased to introduce Ulrich Andersen from Sorano.net, who will be presenting a SNOMED CT post-coordination implementation for design time using SNOMED CT, Snowstorm, and the practical guide to post-coordination from SNOMED International. Ulrich, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. And it's very good to be here, and I'm pleased to have been selected to present. I have a long story with SNOMED, as some of you might know, but this is a great pleasure to come here this year and see the progress of everything and how it's blooming. And particularly, I like the launch session I saw yesterday. I think that is a huge achievement. And now I want to talk a little bit about how to, in another way, extend what is in the terminology, or what can be added to the terminology if you feel for that. And you should probably feel for that, because you know everything we do is probably based on Comenius desiderata a long time ago. They were formulated, but the first principle there is about coverage. So if you have a terminology, you need to use it, and you want to use it in implementation systems, you need to be able to cover the knowledge that's in that domain. So this is about how to achieve that. We all have more or less pains to create extensions in our local languages, as we've just heard. This can be very challenging. Now we take it a step further and say, okay, we can also extend by doing post-coordinations. And just to make a short overview of what you will hopefully learn throughout the next minutes, I have put up this agenda, and I'll first, I think you know what post-coordination is, but if not, I will advise about that. And then the very essential part of this is that this is done design time, and I'll come back to what I mean with that. And then it was all inspired by this practical guide to post-coordination that SNOMED International created and is available now, and we use that, and that is essential. So you should go and read that if you want to get into this. And then for the project where we use this for implementation, I have some of the requirements that we set up to why it fitted so well for us to use this practical guide. And then I will tell you a few of the lessons learned by doing this, and those will be how to configure that particular Snowstorm instance that you want to use for those. And it will also talk a little bit about how you then create those post coordinations, put them on the server, and if you can probably update them or delete them again. And then I think the whole project has some exciting messages to us about what the future can be, and that is what I will end up with. So, yeah. So about post-coordination. So post-coordination is essentially just taking two concepts and make a beautiful bouquet of flowers out of those. So if you have more than one concept in your definition of the meaning that you want to have, then it's a post-coordination. And there are rules that apply on how to do these, and they are well described and available. And this particular example I have here is about a blood pressure cuff neonatal size. I wanted to create a concept for that, so there was a requirement for that. That was actually out of the scope of the project that I'm actually talking about, but I think it's a simple and easy to understand example. And if you put those two together, those two meanings together, you would probably agree that you will get into something that is a blood pressure cuff of neonatal size. And by the way, there is a policy in SNOMED International has a policy that you could also pre-coordinate such concepts, but the idea is not to allow for permutations. So we should not have all different kinds of sizes. So that's something that you get an advice if you go to SNOMED International and say, I want to create these, and then they'll say, we don't recommend that because we will not have all these different permutations. This is something we will reserve for people to use post-coordination for. And that was exactly what we did in this example. Okay, so that was post-coordination. Now about design time. When you do pre-coordinations, they are, of course, always done design time. I mean, it's not something you do on the fly while you create your system. This is something you create when you build your system where people will then interact with. And this is the same principle we have here, that you might have a wish for in the future to be able to do post-coordination runtime, but that's out of the scope of this project. So we said, okay, we just want to extend the kind of pre-coordinated or supply the pre-coordinated concepts with post-coordinated concepts that we have when we build the system already in place. So that was the principle for that. And this picture is supposed to be a technician and some clinicians standing around him and looking over his shoulder to see what kind of concepts he created for them for their system. So what is that practical guide for the thing? That is an 6 pages long cookbook on how to implement Snowstorm T-box for post-coordinations. And by doing that, you can create a collection of what I would suggest to call predicates for things that you have in your assertions. And so this is a way of extending the T-box, and making it available for potentially many assertions around you. And of course, these assertions can interact with each other with reference to the T-box, but that was not the idea here. Here it was just the idea to have one assertion box and one terminology box. And then our requirements for this project. So it's about coverage, as I said first. This was in the domain of dentistry, and there is a service for youngsters in Norway that they will go for prophylactic examinations, and they do that for free, and they do it from they are about, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, and until they get grown up to 18 years old. And we wanted to have this as an input for analysis we wanted to do on how that service actually performs in a health perspective. And then, of course, there was another underlying thing that we wanted to create knowledge about is we wanted to create a scheme for how we could do this in other domains. So we did this, and we were very we took notes on everything so that we can propose a similar approach to other domains at a later stage. Yeah, so those were the requirements we had. And then there was we had, I mean, configuring Snowstorm is a task that probably many of you know already. It's well documented, I would say, for the standard versions. But this is a new version of the Snowstorm server 8.3, and also Snowstorm X is it called, and it's also available. And there is all kinds of configuration possibilities. But what we learned here was bitterly, we learned that if you want to post coordinations on your Snowstorm server, it got to be the 8.3 version, because otherwise it will not work. And that was not obvious from the description. So we thought a long time to make that happen without knowing that we were actually on the wrong version. And of course, that's I mean, it's quite basic. You should of course have a version of the software you want to use that can give you the thing. But that I think that should be more explicit in the user guide. That needs to be done. And then this is about a FHIR API. And therefore, the code system supplement, that is part of the FHIR standard, and that is very well documented too. And but it's if you have not used that before, that is also quite challenging to know how to configure your Snowstorm server with that particular code system supplements that is supposed to be there to hold all these expressions. And then in our case, we also had a performance issue because we had the ambition of doing many post coordinations. And then there was some security issues too. And our advice is that the next version of this document should focus on that, because we use a lot of time with the issues. And then what was it we did? We had this is about more than 32,000 post coordinations. So it's huge. And the material is a 25 years old collection of data from this dentistry service in Norway. And you can learn more about that if you go to Jan Andres presentation tomorrow. But this is how we created those post coordinations. So there is an example of one here, and you have the components that you want to combine. In this situation, it's a procedure insertion of a temporary dental filling in a tooth, and then you point to which tooth it concerns, and also which area on that particular tooth you put your filling. And that can be turned into an expression that can be loaded up to the Snowstorm server. And then what happens there is that it will be validated. So syntactically, it needs to be correct. It needs to be also correct according to the machine neural concept model. And then if all that is okay, then it will get also put in and classified. So you will get all the assay relationships that are necessary to run queries against those at a later stage. But we had all these more than 32,000, and we did them one by one. But we had a small Python script that helped us to post those and wait because it takes time to do this process. For each of these, it takes 1.5 seconds. And if you have 32,000, it will be a lot, and it will take some time, actually more than 7 hours to do all these. And this is just an example of what you do and what you get back. So you get a JSON object back with a confirmation about some representations of this particular concept, and you also get a supposed human readable code back. And then, of course, behind the scene, you have all the assay relationships created and all that, but you don't get that in front of you. But those you can use to retrieve those pre and post coordinations, because the very smart way of combining this is that okay, you have all your pre coordinations in an area, and then we come with our 32,000 and more post coordinations, and we put them in this code system supplement. And therefore, if you point to the code system supplement, you will get what is in the pre-coordination collection and what is in the post-coordination collection, and you have the benefit of running ECLs against those. And this is such an example, and as you probably can't see here, but it is giving you a number of tooths, and it's 52, and I don't know how many teeth you have in your mouth right now, but you don't have 52, I think, but that's because you during your lifetime, you probably have had 52 because you had baby tooth and then you had grown-up tooth. And they are, of course, already in SNOMED and they are pre-coordinated. And if you run the right query, you will get those back through that endpoint or from that endpoint. And that is, by the way, and I think I have a double slide here, but it's in an implicit value set where you run the ECL, and all that is very well documented. So I will not tire you with that part right now. But just see it's the same. You see now, yeah. This is just to highlight the. Yeah, no, this is actually another ECL. So I just wanted to highlight that you are pointing to this particular module that holds all these post-coordination expressions, and that it looks a little bit tricky, but if you know the URI specification of SNOMED, then you would be able to understand what that means. This particular ECL that was sent away here was to find all the findings that are possible on all these 52 different teeth, and those are many, several 25,000 or something like that. And they get, and this performs beautifully. You get that immediately back. I have another example of I think these are the procedures. However, not all procedures, but some procedures except X-ray procedures and preventive procedures. But that's just a matter of how you write your ECL query, of course. One of the things that we learned was those 52 teeth, that was actually, we found by running that query, we found a failure in the modeling of the pre-coordinated concept. So we had, that was 2 teeth that were not there. But that has been fixed. That's one of the benefits you get when you engage in such projects like this. Okay, how am I in time? 5 minutes, total 5 minutes, or 5 minutes to? Okay, so I would like to hear your reflections, so I will go fast with the next things. So it is also possible to use another endpoint, which is a lookup endpoint where you can get all the metadata that are collected for each of these. And this is an example of the first example I gave about this blood pressure cuff. And those are the data that are in the database. Yeah. So and then we had some issues with updating, because if you use the FIRE way of doing updates by the patching method, then you have an operation of update that does not work currently. I'm sure this is something that will come, and the same goes actually for delete. So you get a nice return message that tells you that you can only add currently. That's fine, but we would like to see that it is possible to also do updates and delete. But they are not essential shortage for this purpose. Okay, so now we come to the conclusion on all this. So I think we can conclude that we have demonstrated that it was possible to take these more than 32,000 post-coordinations and have them posted by this patch method on the Snowstorm server. And of course, that implies that they were also classified. So that was, we think that was a nice achievement, that it's possible to do this. I mean, 32,000, that's quite a lot. And by the way, it has grown a little bit since this slide was made, because now it's like almost 34,000, because now we are up to 99.64% of all the events in the database that are actually mapped by post-coordinations. So you heard me right, more than 99% of anything of any event that was ever in that database is now mapped with a pre or post coordinated concept. And that is coverage. And that is what we want to achieve. Okay, we think that the display values are really a challenge. I mean, they're supposed to be kind of human readable. Yeah, I don't know which humans can read those and get a good meaning out of them. But if you're, but there are of course other ways of doing this. And by the way, I run a small website where I try to do exactly this in English. And I can come back to that. But then, of course, we have this with the tricks of the trade of the configuration of the Snowstorm server that I already talked about. So this is our feedback. We would like that. And now we come to the thing that I think is very promising, because the future with this is, so what you see on this graph is that the development of content in SNOMED as a total throughout the years from year 2000 and up to till now, which is slowly rising. All the pre-coordinated concepts that new comes on, that's for sure, but it's going relatively slow. And can it be that we had full coverage already back in 2000? No. So when do we have full coverage? Or what are the challenges of not having that? So I think that we by this small part of a domain in Norway added new, you can say 32 or a little more thousand concepts. And if you think of what that means for the whole coverage domain that we want to have with SNOMED, then I would suggest that you will see something like this, that the number of pre and post coordinated concepts that are available for the end users, it will go sky high. And hopefully we will be able to show you more of that in 2025, when we also hope to have you all as guests in Norway for SNOMED Expo. But that has not been decided, but we would like that to happen. But we would like to be able to share more of this when you come back. And by the way, if you liked this, you should watch our small poster, which is about localization of IPS. It's not so much about post coordination, but it's the same team that created that. And then come the really thing you must see, and that is tomorrow afternoon, where Jan Andre, he will talk about how to use all these post coordinations to do some of the statistical analysis on all these data. And what that means for the practice of preventive dental care in the future in Norway, but maybe also in your country, because there are no such big collections of data, and no such conclusions have been there is no other evidence. This is the first real big evidence about, should we do this, or should we extract, or should we leave a baby tooth that is sick, or what are the implications for the time's up. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and that means no questions, or
If one of you have a question that is right on your tongue, jump to the microphone and we'll do it. Thank you very much, Ulrich.
Okay, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Ulrich, very much.